So, previous guest, there's the first question.
Perfect.
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. Okay.
And I have you read it out loud so the people listening actually know what it is.
What have you learned that has helped you engage with your family better after service? Now, obviously, I'm going to take it from a spouse perspective. First of all, I want to say I'm still learning. I really, truly am. My husband retired 4 years ago. Huge learning curve for both of us. Can't speak for him, but I think the number one thing that I had to realize is I have to have patience. I have to look at different variables in this picture. This is not the guy that's coming home to me after a deployment and going to do another workup and going to go away. This guy is here. He's here for good. And this is what I wanted. You know, this is what all military spouses want. We want, our partner home. We want a family unit. And we want to enjoy it. It's just unfortunate that we have to go on this crazy, emotional roller coaster to get there. And somebody said to me the other day, happiness, it's one of the simplest things in the world, really. But we can't find it. It's hard to find. So for me, I would say that, I've had to learn patience. I've had to learn it the hard way. I operated a business on base pull for, 15, 16 years. And
just for clarification, how long have you been married? Or how long have you been married when he retired? So you said he's been retired 4 years.
I've been with him, January will be 28 years. He served 30. So when I met him, what did I know? What did he know?
Did you guys have conversations about what it was going to be like for him to transition and now be more of a factor into your life or into the household life, as opposed to those little short sections where he would come back from a deployment immediately back into a workup? So he was never really there?
No, to be honest with you, I think I knew it all. I think that after spending all those years on base, talking to service members, service women, I thought I knew it all. Okay, when he retires, I've spoken to enough service members that I know my shit.
Famous last words.
Yeah, famous last words. I did not know it all. It was a struggle for me. I think so, more so than my husband, if I'm honest. Because my husband is the quintessential quiet operator. He is very, very squared away, very stoic. Sometimes I laugh and say to people, he's so stoic, I don't even know if he likes me. But very squared away. I think I had more of a difficult time than he did. And to be honest with you, in my defense, when you spend so much time alone, you become a bit of a control freak. It's my con, it's my house, it's my rules, my kids, my schedule. And yes, you upset the apple cart when you come back with your green bags, but I know in the back of my mind it's a time
short
frame.
Term.
Yeah, and then you're out of here, dude. But I was not a very nice spouse. I'm going to say it. On top of that, I said to my husband when he retired, I went, "Hey, babe, welcome home. Your wife is going through the menopause, and we have a 15-year-old daughter.
Are you sure you want to retire?"
Let's see how you tackle this evolution. So he came home to a menopausal spouse. I did not know how to deal with him. I think that he probably had more, they go through TAP. And contrary to popular belief, I do want to say this, TAP isn't a 3-day class. TAP is a program that starts 2 years before retirement. And if the service member has accessed that program correctly 2 years prior to retirement, you get the ball rolling. So the
flip side to that, though, is I'm not going to say it only, but it works better if the service member knows what they're going to be doing afterwards, the greater majority of the service members leaving the military are unlike your husband. They have not made it to retirement. Many of them, an enlistment, a second enlistment, family obligations. Hey, I got to pull chocks and get out of here. I'd like to stay for a career, but it doesn't work for the family. And so you've got a young man or a young woman who's 30, 31, maybe. They don't know. If they don't know what they want to do with the rest of their life, TAPS is great. But if they don't have a direction, many of them that I've talked to, it's, they forced me to go to the class. I sat in the class, checked the box. But it wasn't until 6 months, a year down the road, it was like, oh, shit. What was that? What was it? What did I learn in that? So that's the flip side to it.
I mean, I hear a lot of guys say, talk about that perspective as well. Obviously, I've never been through a TAP class. I found myself thinking...
Silly question, they don't do TAPs for the spouses?
No.
Oh.
We're just left to figure shit out. And I hate that word resilient. A lot of people go, oh, spouses are resilient. We're gritty. We're tenacious, okay? Fuck the resilience word. It's annoying. But we are not told anything. And sometimes I think that, service members are told everything about, okay, how to open a bank account, this is where to go for a job. There's nothing that prepares any transitioning service member, I think, for the emotional roller coaster you're going to be on. And my heart does go out to service members because I look at my husband, he's, big strapping dude. I had the luxury of being able to break down in front of him and go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry I said that. For a guy, it's different. He's not going to break down in front of me. I'm looking at him because in my mind as a woman, you should know. You've retired now. You're here to help me. How can he help me when he has no idea what I'm going through? I have really no idea if he's going through anything. And we're just a big pile of emotion here. And that lingered for a while. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't very accommodating or understanding at the beginning of retirement. And the other thing was when he retired, there was the tail end of COVID. So our dynamics were a little different. And I feel like I got the transition. It was a delayed transition. And then he was home. And then I realized, you're home. And I don't know what to do with you. And I don't know what to do with myself. And the transition also affected the kids. Not in a bad way, but, my daughter, Jordan, was like, it's kind of weird, Dad bringing me to school every day. And I'm thinking, why is that weird? That's what dads do. And she's like, no, Mom.
He's never done it.
Yeah, he's never done it. And I thought, that's right. So transition, I always say to spouses, it involves everybody. I've had to learn patience. I've had to learn to shut my mouth, take my 10-second rule. Because he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And we expect our guys to know everything. We do. I carried that household for a long time. I was mom and dad. And now I just want to be mom. And I want to be a woman. And it's hard because you become that control person and it becomes that tug of war. And I finally realized I have to give my husband his nutsack back. Say, here you go. You are the man. And I'm grateful for that. I'm an old school. I'm fucking old, man. That's what how I was raised. And that's what I think. Here's your nutsack. You are home. And I don't have to worry about some things. But there were some things I did have to worry about that I wasn't aware of. Just that transition from military into civilian world and how the civilian world operates. I mean, that's caca, and I felt the same thing after closing up my business after 15, 16 years on a Friday. And then I woke up on Monday and I thought, who am I? What do I do? I'm not the coffee lady anymore. Didn't know what to do with myself. So if I felt like that and all I did was operate a coffee cart, how must my husband feel? He spent 30 years doing whatever he was doing. I have no idea how he feels. And I'm just kind of like going with the flow. And because he's so stoic, I'm assuming you're okay. And for the most part, Paul, I got to be honest with you, he was okay. It was me that was jacked up.
Well, the little bit that I've come to know of you and talking with you, and I say this fondly, you seem like somebody who's naturally very strong-willed.
Yes.
So you virtually 20 plus years of running the household. You're going to have your SOPs that he's now stepping into. And it would be the same in reverse. If you were to go to step into his field of work, anything that you do, I don't put that there.
Yeah.
That goes over there.
Yeah.
You know, there's such a learning process for him of how you run the household.
Yeah, and some of it is just gender differences. Then throw on top of that military lifestyle. Like I watched him changing the diaper. And I stood there and it took everything in me not to say anything. And then I had to say to myself, okay, Surinder, as long as the shit doesn't fall out, does it really matter? Does it really matter? And, it doesn't matter. It's not the hill I'm going to die on. I think some of these things are just gender differences. And then there's a level of expectation. And I remember saying this to my partner once. I said, there is a level of expectation for you. And you put it there, not me. So I always expect you to operate on that level. And the crazy shit about that is he's not a robot. He's a human. And I'm sure somewhere along the line, shit has happened that has affected him in how he operates outside the civilian world. I remember my husband said to me once, I was complaining about something. I didn't think I was complaining. I thought I was just making a statement, but I said it twice, so it comes as a complaint. And he looked at me and he went, you know something? He said, I have seen some shit. He said, and I sit here and I listen to you whining. That's right. You're whining about the wrong shade of blue or some shit. He said, and I can't help but think, in the big picture of life, does that fucking matter? And, me being pig-headed, I'm like, well, hey, babe, right now it matters in my world. But really, in the big scheme of things, Paul, did it matter? No, not at all. So when we go back to the question of what I've learned, I think I've learned everything that I'm learning right now as well from him, to be honest with you. I'm the fucked up team guy. He's the squared away guy. So I'm still learning from him what he needs and how he needs it. He has told me outright, hey, listen, I am a caveman. I can't read your mind. You have to tell me what you need. And then I ask myself, if my husband has made it as simple as that for me, why am I still sitting here wishing he'd do something? Do you know what I mean? And that's the gender difference. He's not going to read my mind. I mean, simple things like I'll say to him, hey, Goode, I need a hug. And then I got it. I've had to change my line of thinking a little bit to coincide with his. We've had great conversations. I tell spouses all the time, I know we look at our husbands, we look at our husbands in a husband way, and sometimes I think, oh, seriously, have I got to give you a grid reference for the refrigerator? Are you not a Navy SEAL, But again, and I say this to all spouses, sometimes we got to take a bit of a step back. To your point earlier, yeah, we get the control thing. It feels good. We want to control it all the time. But I didn't marry a part-time husband. I didn't marry him so I would die alone, live my life alone. We have to integrate back into each other's lives. And so we have sat down and we have had conversations that are ugly. But we are both very honest with each other. Really honest. I've said to him before, hey man, this shit don't work for me. Let's figure out how it can work for both of us. And he's turned around to me and said, no. Nobody wants to hear that ugly conversation. but there's too many conversations that don't happen. And as I witness that, not just within NSW, within the community, those conversations that don't happen are the ones that are normally the downfall of the relationship, or the things that we keep on our chest and then we walk around just feeling really heavy. And that just leads to resentment. And who wants that? You know?
I've had guests who, whether you want to call it, tip of the spear, tier one, those guys I've had, largely male who were, run of the mill at line level military members. But with the deployment activity over the last 20 years, the constant deployments become a source of tension in the family. Mm-hmm. And for several of them, it became you got to choose the military or your family. Where I'm going with it is, how were you able to work the time while your husband remained active and still balance that to where you were okay with, Jesus, you're always freaking deployed?
Paul, when I first moved to this country from the Middle East.
If you're like me and you love your coffee, my go-to lately has been Blue Line Roasting. They're a Tennessee-based and law enforcement-owned company, roasting small batches of premium beans. You've got choices from Patriot, which is their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. They roast all their beans fresh, within 48 hours, and ship them to you even faster. You can also get your beans ground for you or delivered whole. Your choice. But here's the cool part. A portion of what you spend goes to support law enforcement families dealing with the impact of line-of-duty injuries or loss. You get an incredible coffee, and they get the help they need. Choose a single bag, a sample pack, or start a subscription so you're never out of coffee. Oh, and shipping is always free. Also, for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. So head over to bluelineroasting.com and make every cup count.
It's not sexy, but myself and my husband had this conversation. Hey, what religion are you? How do you handle money? How do you discipline children? What do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? This is what I came from. This is what I'm used to. And you traveling, love it. Because I'm not the kind of woman that is going to have dinner ready at 6 o'clock on the dinner table. I like me, so I don't mind spending time with me. I'm not used to, having somebody around. So I'm okay with the space. I fully understood that with having that space and time to myself, that if shit was going to happen, it was going to be me here by myself dealing with it. However, most of my life, it's been me dealing with it. So it wasn't something that put me off it at all. And he made it very clear to me. Listen, babe, this is the hierarchy here. We got the Navy, we got the teams, teams, Navy, whichever way it was, you know what I mean? Basically, you're number 3. I understood that, and it didn't bother me because, again, I've been alone most of my life. So being alone for deployments was not going to be an issue. I certainly wasn't going to sit there. I'm a selfish bitch, I admit that. I couldn't wait for Goode to come home so I could say to him, hey, look what I did. Because he can't tell me what he's done, or we all know kind of sort of where you are. But I wanted him to know, hey, man, this is what I can do. So the deployments, yes, listen, my father died. I had our first child by myself. I feel like I had the deployment gnome. The day before Thanksgiving, my water heater took a shit. I had to replace it by myself. I thought I'd discovered something new because I put the hose inside the water heater and I was siphoning it out. And it just so happened a good CB friend of mine came along and I was like, hey, Chief, look what I did. And he went, well, Surinder, it's not what you did. Everybody, that's how you do it. I was like, shit. But those times that, I was by myself where the shit would happen, it's all right. It's okay. You're going to get through it. Nothing that tragic is going to happen where you're not going to get up in the morning and fucking breathe. Everything, there's a solution to everything. And I guess for me, I'm the kind of person that, all right, what's happening? All right, I'm going to fix this. Let's see how I can do this. I think it helps that I grew up with so many brothers. And I've always worked in male-dominated industries. So, it wasn't a problem for me. I don't think I could not have had Goode home every day. That would have led to divorce.
So now the opposite side of that coin.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I can't have you, you can't answer for him, but from your perspective on him,
mm-hmm.
you've already mentioned that your daughter said, man, it's weird having dad driving me to school
mm-hmm.
every day. What's the impact, though, of you as a mom seeing your child growing up and maybe being limited on her relationship with her father? And has he voiced anything about, I don't want to call it regret, but
mm-hmm.
he's obviously missed out on certain things.
Yeah. He does not regret doing whatever he has done for 30 years, and I do not want him to regret it. This is what he did when I met him. He made it very clear to me. He laid out, hey, listen, shit's going to happen. You might be by yourself. This is the deal, lady. Take it or leave it kind of thing. And I took it. And so because I made that choice, I wasn't going to lambast him afterwards. I look at my children now and I think to myself in a crazy way, they are obviously so complete with dad in the picture. He is obviously, like most dads, I mean, service members, you have that little extra special relationship with your kids because you have missed out on so much, For me, I've always said I'm a privileged spouse, and I feel that I was incredibly privileged to have these two small people, one at a time, these little people, all to myself. All to myself 100%. I could figure out, I could really click with them. What do they like? What do they like? What is their personality like? Is it hard work? Oh yeah, come on. But something, there is. Your children, my children do not come into that hard work bracket. You have them, you choose to have them, they ain't going to be easy. But they have both grown up. And I think now at this age, to be honest with you, Paul, now they understand what dad did. Now my son understands what his dad and his father's legacy within the community. And younger, what do kids know? Dad's just not here.
Right.
But again, we spent a lot of time integrating as a family unit, and it was very natural. Was it a little odd for my daughter every now and again? Yeah, but I also think sometimes daddy's little girls, some things are a little, but no, I mean, it's beautiful to see. Beautiful to see. I mean, I tell people all the time, I am unashamedly emotional over my children. And when you see a man of that stature come home and hug his kids, how can any of that be anything but good?
The reason why I asked that is, so from my side of the house, the law enforcement side, my friends who worked homicide cases or homicide units, though that's an unusual beast compared to probably virtually any other detective assignment, because there's so much that happens at the moment that a homicide investigation starts. You don't take a break. You don't go home. Because you are literally under the clock. That's why they make a TV show called The First 48 Hours.
Yeah.
Because so much of it has to be right away. And the thing is that when you're working homicide cases, it's not usually just one. While you're working one, another one or multiple have come up. And so I've had conversations with buddies of mine who they were working homicide during those years when their kids were at their most formative. Mm-hmm. And it's not all of them, and it's not a few of them. It's maybe a coin flip 50-50. Some of them have said, man, I would never give it up again. I loved working homicide because of what I was able to give back to those victims.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, though, they'll also tell you, but I victimized my family because I wasn't there for my family. I wasn't there for my kids when they were going to ballet recitals or baseball games or whatever it was because I was running a homicide case. So that's where I was only coming with it.
Do you think, though, because I've thought about that and I've thought to myself, it's almost like when you go to work you're here, you're stateside, you're maybe down the road or wherever the location is. I'm assuming that because you are here and so close to home, but not home, I can imagine that guilt, is somewhat amplified because you're so close to home, but you're not home mentally, Whereas when he's away, I guess I'm assuming that, okay, I know you're away, so that's it. You're out the question. He knows I'm away, so there's some closure, I guess.
I would imagine that that's a very interesting and unique way of thinking about it, is that maybe it does compound the guilt, because maybe when you're driving to that next interview or that next scene or whatever it is, and you're going, my kid's playing a baseball game 40 minutes from here, but I can't turn left and go to the game. When your husband's employed, like, I'm 5,000 freaking miles away. There's nothing I could do even if I wanted to.
I know. Yeah, So I think that, I'm fairly confident if I can, speaking on behalf of my husband, integrating back into the family unit, I saw things relatively easy. It was relatively easy. And again, I think it came at a great time because Jake, our oldest, he was just graduating as well.
Is he leaning towards the military?
He did say to Chris, he said, listen, Dad, he said, I'd like to go into the buds. And Chris said to him, listen, son, you're 17 right now. And at this point, physically, absolutely, man, you could knock him dead. But mentally, he said, I've put a lot of 18-year-old kids through and you're just not ready right now, So Chris made a deal with him. He's like, hey, listen, complete your education, get your degree, knock that out. And once you've done that, if your mind is where your mind is today, I'll support you 100%, That's what I'll do. So we don't know yet with Jake, but it makes me feel a different kind of way. Because he's my son.
something that's immediately coming to mind. And when I interviewed AJ James, and he told me about when his boys were young, and he punished them by making them get wet and sandy. Has Chris ever done that to your son?
Oh my gosh, listen, I left my house at 4:00. I normally go to work out at 4 a.m. I walked outside the front door and I noticed water immediately. And then as I looked into the driveway, there's my husband sitting there. He's wearing his UDT jacket. And there's my poor kid. He's getting hosed down and he's doing jumping jacks. And I looked at my husband's face. I looked at my son's face. I got in the car and I drove away. I thought, dude, I don't know what you did, but chances are you ain't never going to do it again. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I think you have to. I think you have to, Yeah,
he was talking about how he actually had him at the beach. Running down and getting wet and sandy. And his wife, he said, almost lost it. It's like, what the hell? And because his boys were young, I want to say they might have been like 6 or 7.
Oh my gosh. Now, if Jake had been 6 or 7 doing jumping jacks and being hosed down, I might have had something to say too. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like isn't it a rite of passage? Like father-son kind of thing, regardless of profession. I remember my old man wrestling with my brothers, arm wrestling, and he could have kicked their ass easy, but sometimes he'd let them win a little bit. I think it's just a guy thing. I love it. That's how it should be.
Teach your boys to be boys.
Yeah.
So let's dig into you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally? Your accent doesn't sound like it's Southern Californian.
Not at all. Although I did convince somebody I was from Atlanta. And, gullible guy, he took it and then I thought, oh, okay. No, I was actually born in the West Midlands in England.
Okay.
And then at an early age, moved up to Scotland. And...
what did mom and dad do?
Mum and Dad worked in factories. They were immigrants to England. They came over at a time, the British Raj, and then they could come over. And my dad, God bless him, neither of my parents are here today. They were cultural Indian parents, but they were very progressive and didn't realize they were progressive, We didn't even know that word existed. But they, worked in factories, raised us all. We never went without. It was a very hard, culture to be born into. I hated it. I was told what to do, when to do. I was judged upon how I did it.
More by the community or by your parents?
Parents and community, because I think, there were standards.
Because you were the girl?
Yeah. And again, my parents were progressive in the way that they had my eldest sister. Then they had a plethora, the whole football team of boys. And my dad just kept on going because, crazily enough, they wanted another girl, which was completely unheard of in our culture. And then they had me.
So are you the baby of it all?
No, I have a younger brother.
So they didn't stop after you?
No, they didn't. But I'm the youngest daughter, and I was a disappointment. I didn't toe the line. I knew there's a couple of things I knew from a very early age. Number one, I was never going to marry an Indian guy. I was never going to do that arranged marriage stuff. Number two, I was geographically born in the wrong country. I always knew I should have been born stateside. I grew up listening to Ronnie Reagan. I don't know if I'm a Reaganite. I don't know. But, and I remember my dad saying to my brothers, my sister moved over here at a time when America was crying out for nurses. So she applied and she moved over here. And I remember my dad telling my brothers, listen, if she lets you in, America, you have made it. It is the land of opportunity. But if you fuck with her, she is going to kick your ass. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, that's what I want. I want to go somewhere where people, if you don't toe the line, kind of thing. That's where I want to be. Just never knew how I was going to get here. But, I geographically felt I was born in the wrong place. And
how'd you develop your independent streak?
Well, I did a couple of naughty things, and Mom and Dad decided, okay, well, this cannot be tolerated. And then I decided in my, brain, I was like, all right, fuck this, I'm out. And I packed up my stuff in the middle of the night and went and lived in a car. I lived in a car for 2 weeks and got myself a job. And thought, all right, let's go. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. All the time knowing the people behind, the people that knew that I had left. I mean, my parents didn't speak to me for over 15 years. I was estranged from my family for all that time. But I knew that everybody would be kind of like watching. I felt everybody would be watching in my culture to see me not make it. That's what they were waiting for. And I don't know what it was, Paul, but failure wasn't going to be an option. It couldn't be an option for me. I lived in that car for 2 weeks. I got myself a job. Did
I hear you tell your story that when basically post 9/11 kicked off and the war in the desert started, you basically told your parents there's money to be made down there and that's where I'm going?
Yeah, I said, listen, there's a war going on. And I knew anytime there's a war going on, there's an economy. And that economy has to be booming. Otherwise, the war cannot happen, And
did you have an idea, though, what you were going to do or wanted to do to make money down in the Middle East?
Well, I knew I wanted to get out of Britain. That was number one. I wanted to get away.
I'll figure everything else afterwards.
I thought, let's move to point B. Let's get there. You can leave what at that time was just a lot of shit from my community, a lot of heartache. I can leave that behind. I can go to the Middle East. I can reinvent myself. Nobody knows who I am. And that's what I decided to do. I went for the interview, got the job, moved to the Middle East, and you know what the fucked up thing is? Moved to the Middle East, and we're going through. I applied for to be a flight attendant with Gulf Air, and part of their training, was you got to swim, you got to save somebody's life. Well, I'm no water babe, right? And I remember being in that pool. You got the life jacket and everything, and my buddy, I was saving her life, and I got my arm around her neck, and I was like, "Bitch, you better pedal. You better, flip those feet, because I got to make this. I can't go home." God bless her. I always remember her name, Debbie Clark. She was like, all right. So, I made it through. Worked for the airline, loved it. Got to see the world. Humbling. Incredibly humbling. Had great experiences. And then, crazily enough, His Royal Highness one day said, "Hey, Surinder, want you on my flight to operate." And I thought, okay, either he's smoking too much crack or I'm smoking too much crack. Because I'm 10 a penny. Everybody on the crew was tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed. Everybody was a Pamela Lee. And then there was me. And I was like, surely it's a mistake. But it was, I had a great relationship with that guy. I was the only one that could call him Jack. He flew me over to the States. I couldn't get out of Bahrain. I remember one July the 4th, I couldn't get out of Bahrain. I'd met Goode. I'd come over. He, great, walked into a bar, and I just thought, I have to have. And, we knew each other for 6 days. 6 days. And I knew that was the man I was going to marry. I never met anybody like that before, never had a boyfriend before. Never promoted anybody to a boyfriend. I don't know when people get promoted in the relationship, but I don't ever remember saying to anybody, "You're my boyfriend and it's just you." But I saw him and I just thought, I got to have this. I got to have this guy. This is my guy. But His Royal Highness.
That's a great opening line. If you just walk up to him and say, I got to have you.
Well, you know what I did? He was being, when you meet people, you meet somebody you like and they're all cool and shit, He was actually in the bar with some other chick. And he came in and got introduced to me and whatever. And then he's over, there with this other chick. And I'm saying to my roommate, because we're stupid and we're young, "Hey, is he looking at me? Is he looking at me?" She's like, "Yeah, he's looking at you." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And then he comes over to say goodbye. And he's real cool, "Goodbye." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, see you around." All cool and shit. And he goes to walk out the bar, and I turn around to my roommate and I went, "Did he look back?" And she went, "Yeah." I went, "Got him."
I was going to ask if you didn't realize that the fact that he came over to say goodbye when he was there with somebody else, that should have been the clear indicator that he was already on your side.
Well, he came back in the bar without that chick, and I walked up to him and I went, "Room 5, Coronado in, let's go." And he was like, "Okay, lady." And so that's how it all started, but it sounds sleazy, "Hey, room 5, Coronado in, let's go." It's
only sleazy if you're not married for the next 30 years.
Well, that's right. But that was it. That was the beginning. And it was just like, I don't know. I can't describe it. I mean, my friends in Bahrain were like, "What the hell is going on with Surinder?" Because Surinder's never had a boyfriend, kind of deal.
So were you just on a layover here in San Diego from...
No, I actually came through to see a good girlfriend of mine. I lived with a girl in the Middle East called Helen. She met a team guy. I didn't know what a team guy was. She was like, "Hey, there's, a girlfriend of mine in the Middle East used to go, 'Hey, there's some Navy SEALs coming through.'" And I was like, "So fucking what, man?" Who cares?
You mentioned Johnny Walker. I still remember the first time I was talking with him, and how he was told, he's like, "Hey, you need to go work with the SEALs." I'm like, "What the fuck's a SEAL?"
Yeah.
He went and opened up a book. He's like, it swims in the water. What?
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what these Navy SEAL people are. And my girlfriend's like, "They're real special, whatever." I'm like, well, and we went into the bar one night and I looked at them and I went, "Well, they look good." But then at that time, I remember one of them was talking to me and I turned around and looked at him and I went, "Shut up." I said, "You just ruined my wet dream, dude. You're really good when you were mute. Now you're trying to have
You're really pretty. Just stop talking."
Yeah, you're really pretty. Just stop talking. But no, I mean, so this girl, she met a guy and she came over to Coronado to, move in with him. And And then I came over on vacation with our other roommate just to, hey, let's go to Coronado. Let's check out Helen. Let's see what's going on in the world. And, when I traveled extensively, but then when it came to California, I had this little insecurity complex because everything I'd seen about California was Pamela Lee. So I'm thinking, all right, I got to drop like 20 pounds. I've got to get my shit together here, And then I landed into San Diego and the first person I saw was like 400 pounds. And I was like, okay, I just put in a lot of work for what? But, so I came over to see Helen. And the crazy thing is that the night I met my husband, somebody called him and said, hey, Goode, Helen's got a friend over from the Middle East. You want to go down the bar? There's one that's cute. I assume they were talking about me. And he was like, nah, man, I'm hungover. Don't want to go, don't want to go kind of thing. So he wasn't all for it, But yeah, we met that night and that was it for me. That was it. And, people's spouses have said to me, Surinder, that sounds so gay. But in all honesty, Paul, I always said I wanted to marry the cream of the crop. That is what I got. I totally got the cream of the crop. That man is my right arm. He's just everything to me. And I know post-retirement, even active duty, shit happens. But I always think to myself, when you've invested so much of yourself, every emotion that you have, somebody has seen your vulnerabilities. I'm in it for the long haul. Now, don't get me wrong. There's got to be something fucking crazy going on for me not to be with this guy. But this is the guy. I was never going to have anybody else's kids. Never going to be with anybody else. It was that simple, that cut and dry for me, So, and that's just the way it's always been. And we've had, like I said, I think our conversations, as ugly as they can be sometimes, that's really helped. And I do believe the fact that working on base, listening to service members talk about what difficulties they have in the connection. How do you connect with somebody back home that cannot even fathom what you have done on deployment? And then the other hard thing for me was, and I'm glad he's this way, but I would hear stories about him on deployment or maybe what they did or whatever, and they're always badass stories. But, he'd walk through the front door and he's teddy bear, doesn't know where the cheese is in the fridge, pees all over the toilet seat, dips into the Coors Light bottle. Do you know what I mean? He's totally not what people have told me that he is. And it took me a long time to realize that's what makes him as good as what he is, because he doesn't bring it home. He can separate healthily both things. And that's very unique. And it took me a while to understand that. I don't know. Let's be honest. The skill set my husband has post-retirement has absolutely no use for me. No.
Has very little use for the civilian world too, unfortunately.
I know.
You'll often hear me say this. I get it. The 100-mile-an-hour teams are fun, and I got to play with them, and I would not give that up for the world. Mm-hmm. But you also have to understand, when you walk out the door, there's not many companies on the civilian side going, hey, who's got breaching experience?
Yeah.
Who's got sniping experience? Who's got snatch and grab experience? It's not really in high demand for legitimate civilian companies.
How did you deal with it?
I don't know if I have. Mm-hmm. I had these plans that I spent the last almost 8 years promoting into senior management. So I was very much removed by the time I was walking out the door. I was already way the rear with the gear kind of deal. But it fed something in me to know that I was that piece that makes my guys get what they got to get done. I had plans to go get another job. It didn't pan out for a variety of reasons. I don't know. I actually got deep into the interview process as a chief of staff with a software development company. And what the final straw was with the CEO, he's like, this is a new company. He goes, I'm going to need you to be me on occasion. And you're going to need to be able to go troubleshoot. And I said, I don't have software development experience. Mm-hmm. I've got computer forensic experience and I've got enough knowledge to be dangerous, but I go, if you give me time, I guarantee you I can learn it. And it was just, he goes, I need somebody who can run right now. I've had other opportunities. I live here an hour north of San Diego, and the opportunities are in downtown LA. And so now I'm looking at a job that's going to put me on the road 2 hours each way. And you start kind of weighing out, like, is almost 10 hours plus a week just driving worth a paycheck? So I pick up work here and there. I've got my certification to do like EP work. Yeah. My ex-chief runs a high-end PI firm, so I do some corporate type investigations. But I want to get this podcast making money.
I hear you. Let me ask you a quick question, though.
Do I have to give a quick answer?
No, you can take your time. It's your podcast. There are people that I know that have retired from, regardless of whatever community they belong to. And then they stay on as, I don't know, advisors or what's the other word?
Contractor.
Contractor, yes. And some of them handle it better than others. Do you think that, again, I know it depends upon the individual, if you are still somewhat connected to your profession?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say to those guys and gals that maybe are on the peripheral of their profession that they were so involved in at one point, but they still don't feel whole being involved on the peripheral, but they know they can't be in it, but they can't be away from it? What do you say to those people?
My 30,000 foot answer is you hadn't done enough to establish your identity away from the uniform. So when it came time to say, I want to retire, because so many of us, we spend our career doing that. I want to retire. But then you retired and you're not ready to walk away from that community. That tells me that you hadn't fully created your life away from that community. Now, unlike the military, there is a point in the military where you will hit a point where they will go, you don't get to stay here anymore, even if you want to. In the first responder community, that's not as common. But I don't know many people who are still, I don't know anybody who is still doing it when they were 70. You know, we have the ability for many of us, at least in California, to retire at 50. I walked out at almost 54. Still young, still well able to go get another career. If, when you step away, you still have a desire to be a part of that community, great. But I would say then, why did you retire?
Yeah.
You know, now there comes a dollars and cents question. This is the other factor too. I could have kept working, but you get to a point where from a purely financial standpoint, you're not losing money, but you're giving money away because with the calculations of your retirement, you going to work every day, you're working for a dime, a dollar, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, if you can leverage that to retire and then go collect a second check, then I say more power to you. If that's your calculated answer. I think for a lot of them, it's they don't know what else they can do or want to do, so I'm going to go back and be a part-time back in it again. That's my 30,000 foot answer.
Because, you know, sometimes I speak to service members and I, like I said, I understand when I closed down my coffee locations, and then, you know, I woke up on a Monday morning and I was like, okay, what do you do? Because, you know, every day for 15 years, 0400, I was on base. What do I do? Who am I? And what am I capable of? And how do I put things into practice? You know, when I speak to service members, for me, it was different. Obviously, I'm a spouse. I had that, I'm going to say luxury. I had the luxury of not worrying about finances and having to go to another job because my guy was active duty. But service members that don't know what they're going to do after they leave, and then how do you find your identity? How do you...
I honestly believe that that's something that you have to work on cultivating from the day you start with these careers. It's not something that you find, in my opinion, later on. I think that it's something that you make as much a part of you from the day you start.
But they don't tell you that when they start, though.
No.
You know what I mean?
And it's definitely not as much for the military side of the house. For those of us who choose to go towards law enforcement, I guarantee you're going to lose a lot of your friends, especially if you were somebody who maybe kind of pushed the limits as far as proper behavior. Because you're going to have a lot of friends go, whoa, dude, you're a cop now. I'm not hanging out with you. But the thing is that what ends up happening, and I was just having this conversation yesterday with somebody. The unfortunate thing, though, for both of us, veteran and first responders, is it's a double-edged sword. Because you'll hear people say, don't identify yourself by the uniform. Don't identify yourself by what you do. Identify yourself by you who happens to do that. But then you're with your spouse. And let's say you go to the PTA party, whatever it is, and you tell yourself, I'm going to walk into this group. I'm going to be social, but I'm just going to introduce myself as Paul. Hey, I'm Paul. How you doing? And inevitably, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm a cop. And immediately they want to hear the war stories. Same way, I'm sure anytime your husband, and if your husband tried to say, hey, man, I just don't want to talk about it, their spouse, if it wasn't other military spouses, maybe it was civilian spouses, you might have heard, hey, man, why is your husband an asshole? My husband just wanted to hear some stories. And then if you turn and go, and I'm not saying this derogatory, but your husband's a plumber. Nobody's asking him about a clogged toilet. Nobody's asking him about those stories. Nobody wants to hear those stories. The plumber doesn't want to talk about clogged toilets, but they want you to talk about a deployment. You know, so you're in a catch-22. You can't win for losing.
No. But somebody did say to me once, a long time ago, they didn't use the word asshole, but they came up to me and they went, man, what's the deal with your husband? You know, we just wanted to, ask him a few things. I said, well, why don't you walk up to him with that tone of voice and ask him that question? And then when you wake up, you will realize he does not want to talk about deployments. Asshole. But I get it. I totally get it. It's, and I look at my husband sometimes because my husband, like I pointed out on the book, that's my husband. He's a big guy. I mean, if you look at my husband, you think he's an athlete, he's a high performer of something somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So I think human nature, people want to hear stories. I mean, we had a neighbor once that was like, hey, I noticed your husband was on deployment when Osama bin Laden was killed. I was like, I think there's a lot of guys on deployment, man. There's a lot of shit going on. Who knows? But, I guess in his head, he's like, oh, it was good.
I was having a conversation with another first responder he's actually gotten into the TEDx world. And he was planning for his second one. And he was talking about it. He's like, a little bit of imposter syndrome. Because he goes, I spent 15 years as a hose dragger firefighter. I don't have a degree. I don't have a PhD. And all these other people doing TEDx talks. And I told him, I said, you got to remember something. There's never going to be a parade for a bunch of PhDs.
No.
There's never going to, the parade will always be for us. So walk in there with the confidence of knowing what you've experienced. 99% of society will never be able to understand or comprehend what you had to do.
Yeah, it's so true what you said. I mean, I've had people come up to me and they go, hey, you're a SEAL spouse and you don't introduce yourself as a SEAL spouse. And I always say, no, because I got no war story to tell you. It's as sexy as long as I make the statement, I'm married to a Navy SEAL, end of story. I can't tell you if I breached anything. I don't know shit, you know? So people, and because I won't do that, you know, it's not.
But see, that's what brings me back around to talking to you about your independence, because you mentioned something that I think is very important from a spouse's perspective, is you established your own identity.
Yeah.
Not the spouse of a Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. You were Surinder, who my husband happens to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things for successful relationships is you're not tied into your husband beyond him being my husband.
Yes.
That's just what he goes to work and does every day.
Yeah. I'm glad you hit on that point, because over my 27, 28 years, I have come across spouses that have married because the profession is as such. And I just think to myself, ladies, not only are you screwing up your life, but you're screwing up somebody else's life as well. And nobody has the right to do that. You know, I mean, I've just never been one of those spouses. And, you know, I'm married to an old school frogman. And so this is how we operated. And I say to young spouses these days, see those days where I had to go buy the logs of Copenhagen and Mountain Dew or whatever else because there was nothing over there. And it was a right roll pain in my ass to send these care packages. I would go back to that day any day of the week, because to get that letter in the mail, something tangible in your hand that you can read several times over, you know, even waiting for a phone call. Now, my husband...
Was he always good at writing letters in the sense of...
I know. I'd always, again, I was a privileged spouse. I had a business on base and I had a location over on the SEAL team side, but not many people knew I was Goode's wife. So, you know, because they didn't know, especially the young guys didn't know I was Goode's wife, so I'd like fuck with them a little bit, you know. And Goode would always be like, okay, Surinder, you got to stop this shit. And I'm like, I can't help it, they're so gullible. But, you know, I was on base. So my understanding and what I believed in, and maybe this is what just got me through the deployments, is if shit's going to go down, I'm right here on base. Somebody's going to walk over to me and go, hey, Surinder, this is what's happened. And I'm going to be like, roger that. Da, 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 da. Now, before Goode ever went on deployment, you know, we used to sit down and, you know, we used to fill out those Keiko forms, but we had our own little system at home, and we had a sheet of paper, and on that sheet of paper it was, who am I calling? What am I doing? Da, 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 da. Because who knows if that situation had occurred, if I went into shock, what would I do? So we had stuff written down, you know, so that I could follow. And I don't know why we went into that. I totally lost my train of thought. I'm going to be honest. I lost my train of thought.
It's just that communication piece.
Yeah, it is. You know, again, the communication is, again, like I said, I'm so glad we never had phone calls. You know, I think my husband called me, I don't know.
It's almost one of those things, if he did call, you'd be like,
yeah,
what's wrong?
He called me once because I remember I was out with the dogs. I was pregnant with Jake. I was about 8 months pregnant. Some dog was loose. My German Shepherds went ahead. I fell over, grabbed my dogs. However I managed it, I got home, and you know, the HR gal from my business called me, and I said to her, I said, hey, I ain't going to be coming in because of this reason. And she went, Surinder, don't you think you should go to hospital? And I went, for what? I said, I feel good. She went, no, you really should go to hospital. You know, you're 8 months pregnant. And I'm like, all right, okay then, you know. And the guy came over, his dogs were loose. He came over, grabbed his dogs, whatever. You know, anybody else would have sued him. And I always think to myself, when you sue a family that has dogs, chances are there's kids in that house. Chances are they didn't intentionally leave the gate open. It was a mistake. You're hurting children here. You know what I mean? So anyway, I went off to the hospital, and they were like, oh, you know, you're whatever, dilating, whatever. Everything was good. But somebody told
Got a message to him
got a
somehow.
message to my husband. And I'm sitting at home eating frozen ice cream at this point, watching, I loved, my favourite time was I would watch Trumpy. And with what was it called? Where you tell everybody they were fired.
You're fired?
I loved that. I loved it.
The Apprentice.
The Apprentice. I watched every episode of The Apprentice with my yogurt. And my husband called me out the blue and I was like, hey. And he's like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, why?
Let's be honest. We're hard on our sunglasses, especially first responders and military members. They get dropped, scratched, left on the dash, or crushed in our gear bags. Frontline Optics gives you the same premium quality and eye protection without the high price tag. Sure, you can spend big money on the designer brands, but why should you? From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective and water-repellent coatings, every pair of Frontline Optics glasses is built to handle the demands of the job. And here's the best part. When life happens and they break, Frontline Optics has a no questions asked replacement program, even for prescription glasses. If that's not enough, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every sale supports the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping the families of those who gave everything. If you're looking for sunglasses that look good, are built tough, and that come from a company that gives back, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines.
He's like, well, I heard that you fell. And I went, damn, you're good. You are good. I said, listen, all is good.
Your spine network's on point. I'm fine.
But I think, phone calls. I don't need all 5 fingers in the 14, 15 deployments I've been through. Don't need all 5 fingers. And I'm glad he didn't call me. I'm glad it wasn't like that, because I say to spouses all the time, listen, see this today where you can call them and whatever and text and all that good shit? There's a flip side to that. And if you're pissed off with each other, you're taking that pissed offness right on deployment. He's taking that with him and you're carrying it forward with you. And that is not a place where you want your guy to be, any service member to be. So you just want to not do that. Don't call them on deployment. I was giving a marriage seminar recently and this woman stood up and she went, hey, she said, how did you feel about your husband calling home on R&R and then he's all fucked up? And I said, is that your husband behind you? And he went, yeah. I said, stand up. I said, listen, dude, don't call your wife when you're on R&R. Because you haven't had a beer for a while, you're going to get fucked up real quick. The best thing to do is Venmo her $50. Say, hey, babe, I got an R&R weekend. Go get yourself some as well. Don't call her, because she's never going to see you in any other picture than, my husband's fucked up. Great. He's fucked up. Now he wants sex on the phone. And that shit ain't going to happen while I got a kid on my arm. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, just don't call home. So I'm glad. I'm glad there were letters, the few that I got. I think it made our relationship a lot stronger. And I learned something new about him every time he came back. And I think that's the beauty of being in a relationship for me. I still learn from my partner. I think when you stop learning from each other, I don't know what I got. Then to me, the sexiness is over. It's like the chase is over. You can't tell me anything I don't know, my friend. See you later, So I'm always learning from him.
There is something, though, that I think for us, just in general, when we're in relationships, and I want to say this almost in the sense of, just let your spouse be.
Yeah.
In the sense of, how often have you been out with your girlfriends and you guys went out, it's a girls' night out, you're at a bar, whatever, and inevitably one or two of them, their husband's texting them all freaking night long.
Yeah.
Just leave them alone.
Yeah.
Let them go have fun. Yeah. When your husband or spouse is on deployment, I'll see you when you're back, kind of deal.
It's funny, when I opened up the coffee carts, Paul, I remember walking into my man cave, and this is the first coffee cart I was going to put on base, and we were getting ready to open or whatever. And there was a conversation. Some of the buddies were over, and the conversation basically went along the lines of, "Hey, Goode, your wife's on base, man. You know, because I'm a friendly person. I'm a hugger, you know, and I'm a sicko. So sometimes I'd be smacking somebody's ass and be like, yeah, get some, you know. And guys would be like, hey, man, your wife's on base. I mean, how do you feel about that, you know? And I'm standing there and my husband turned around and he went, she's my wife. I trust my wife, you know. And because spouses used to say to me, do you trust him when he goes on deployment? I'm like, if I don't trust him, period, if I just don't trust him, why am I with him? Yeah, I trust him. If I feel it in the pit of my stomach, then there's a problem. But no, quite frankly, I have never felt that with my guy. And my guy's never felt that. We're secure with each other. Yeah, you know, if somebody looked at my husband, like my daughter asked me this question once, she went, Mom, that woman keeps staring at Dad. I went, you know why, babe? Because he's a good-looking son of a gun. I said, that's why she's staring at him. It's that simple, Jordan. But we don't, you know, people look. I mean, yeah, we're secure. Very
simple
secure.
lesson in life, daughter. When you eventually have your Ferrari, understand this. Everybody looks.
Ferrari. God, don't be giving her any ideas, Paul. I've only got one sponsor. I'm struggling to keep them.
Why'd you shut down the coffee shops or the coffee carts?
I closed them down because my father had passed away and I was going backwards and forwards. He had lung cancer and I was going backwards and forwards. And then like 8 years later, my mum was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I think at that point as well, I couldn't expand. The Navy had asked me to go nationwide. They said, will you go nationwide? And I wanted to go nationwide, Paul, but I did not know how. How do I go nationwide? I've got 2 children, a husband that's not here, you know. And the crazy thing is, on one of my trips home before my dad passed away, I was sitting there and I'm talking away to him and he turned around and he looked at me and he went, you know something, Surinder? He said, you've got all these locations. He said, you can take all of that money and put it at the foot of the bed. I'm still going to die. He said, so ask yourself, are you living to work or working to live? And I couldn't understand what he meant, you know, at all. And then I remember I came back and I had a look at my locations and they were all viable. I loved them. But I think, you know, what I preached to my employees, hey, when that day comes that, you know, and I think that day came where my mum had passed away. My kids were getting a little bit older and I thought to myself, okay, I enjoyed this. I had a blast. It was great. And now it's time to close it down and find something new and move on to something new. I have no regrets. 6 months after I closed down the last location, Navy Exchange came to me and, you know, said, hey, would you consider reopening? And then, you know, the new compound, they asked me about the new compound. But the thing is, Paul, I built my business on talking shit to the guys. So, you know, when the things were changing for a while where you can't say certain things and, you know, I don't fit into that arena. You know, so I was like, no, I'm sorry. I don't even know what PC is anymore. Do you know? I don't know. I say words and people tell me all the time, you can't say that. And I'm like, why not? I'm 56. I can say what the fuck I want. You know? What are you going to do? Take away my birthday? Yeah, you know.
When you were in the process of growing it, though, what was the motivation for the growth? Was it the challenge of seeing how much you could grow, or was there a prescribed plan that you were following?
No plan. I was winging it. You know, what I knew was this: the side that I opened my location on NAB. When I opened that location 3 months into it, when I realized, okay, this is something a little different here. I immediately went to the Navy Exchange and said, I need to negotiate that location across the road. And I want to negotiate this and I want to negotiate that. And then they started coming to me going, hey, can you be there? Can you be there? And I felt powerful. I felt success. I felt purpose. I felt I was kicking ass. My ego was out of control. I was surrounded by so much eye candy. I was ODing on it. You know, I was having great conversations. There was not a bad day. There was not one single bad day when I went to work. I had the best clientele in the world. The first day I walked onto that base, again, coming from the shithole and the culture that I come from, I'm sure a lot of people will be going, hey, Surinder, they cancel. It was what it was. I walked onto that base. The first time I walked onto that base and I opened up that coffee cart, people came up to me, bought coffee from me. I gave them shit. I had a laugh and a joke with them, and not one person judged me. Not one person turned around and said, hey, man, your accent's all jacked up. Hey, will you stop cussing at me? In fact, I remember on my second day, some guy was walking by the coffee cart and he had a cup of coffee from Mickey D's. And I went, hey, Smith, because, you know, thankfully everybody had their name on it. I went, hey, Smith. I said, you get that coffee from Mickey D's? He went, yeah. I went, I hope you get the shits. Have a nice Navy day. Don't do that again. You know, I gave guys shit all the time. And they loved it. I loved it. It was the best place to be. The safest. Safest place to be. I loved it. I got to learn a lot, not just about service members, you know, commands, how, what is the CB command? What is this command? You know, I had, you know, when people look at the Navy, I think we all forget in big entities, police force, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind there, a lot of pieces, a lot of cogs, you know, and that is somewhat part of the reason why I do my podcast as well, because see those people behind the scenes, they deserve to be acknowledged. The spouse that has just opened a small business and she's sweat equity, you know, trying to sell her shit. Hey, let me highlight you. Because if I can get one person to buy something from you, then I've helped you towards financial freedom. Not only that, you feel good. That's all I want people to feel. I just want people to feel good, worthy, have a purpose. And when I speak to service members, I say to them all the time, hey, listen, I trusted you while I was having a wet dream so you could be on the wall doing whatever you're doing. So why would you separate from the military and take the first job you're offered? You've got such a unique skill set. You know, Seabees, I mean, my God, I watched them build a bridge in the water. You know, such a unique skill set that you should be proud of that. You should negotiate with that, you know. Don't take the first thing that comes up, because so many of them do. It's not their cup of tea. They feel they need to work. They feel they'll move on from this to something maybe better. And sometimes that doesn't always happen, and then they end up not being fulfilled in their job.
That's the big thing is, if you do jump on that first one right after coming out,
yeah,
fine, take the job. But the day you realize this isn't for me,
yeah,
you should be looking for that next one. Yeah. You're not stuck there.
Yeah. I actually suggested to a couple of guys. I said, you know what you should do? Because they were all like, we don't know what we're going to do.
You don't strike me as somebody who subtly suggests.
I said, listen, dude. I said, you have no idea what you want to do. And that's okay. That is okay. Because until you figure out who you are now, why would you know? But I think what you should do is go volunteer. And he looked at me. I went, what? Does it sound gay? Go volunteer. Go volunteer somewhere where maybe you can mentor somebody. You just never know what can come of that. Yes, I know there's no paycheck with it, but it's the other thing that service members are not good at, and it's not their fault, is the whole networking. And I sit on several boards in San Diego, and one of the boards that I sit on, we do a monthly breakfast, SD Mac, and I can spot the service member a mile away. And I always walk up to them and I go, hey, listen, man, Who you looking for? What industry do you want to be in? Let me make the warm intro because you standing here is just not a good look for you. You know what I mean? Because again, on the transition out, even let me ask you, when you were transitioning out, what was it like for you? Were you told, okay, this is how you network, Paul? This is how you put your resume together, Paul? Did you know all of that?
Yes, but because, for anybody who's worked law enforcement, I got into the fraud and computer side of things.
Okay.
Not the cool stuff.
Okay.
Not what anybody, it's like the guys when I was on our tactical team would say, you're the cool nerd.
Oh, okay.
But I stumbled into fraud midway through my career. And that was the best learning lesson for me for when I was going to transition. Because I already had people, I would go to those conferences, give my business card, hey, yeah, when you're looking to retire, hey, I've got somebody, on my team is looking to retire at the same amount of time, maybe there'll be an opening. And you start learning how to talk to people and network. So I was already down that path. I was already thinking about what I was going to do afterwards. And then I don't want to say it derailed me. Promoting at the tail end of my career changed directions for me because in my mind, I had always kind of been operating on, hey, I'm going to retire from here and I'm going to go do something similar, but on the civilian side. So like go and get into like corporate investigations or something like that was what I was leaning towards. But then all of a sudden you get some leadership experience and you want to apply for the management or leadership positions, but then you start realizing on the civilian side, it's experience plus leadership time in their community.
Yes.
Not just leadership. And so I would look at the leadership positions and go, I don't qualify for, they won't even look at my resume because I can't show them that I have 5 years in corporate management. So that kind of screwed me up a little bit. I wish I would have been better. I wish I would have looked at that aspect a little bit better as far as the preparation. But yeah, doing my resume, because I had actually had a job. I taught at several colleges while I was still working. So I had to go through the resume process. I don't know on the military side, as you put in your packet for your next promotion, if it requires a resume. In law enforcement, you have to do it, but it's not a true resume.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate that doing some of the outside jobs, I did get that experience. But like I said, in general, I had a plan. When it actually came time to put it into fruition, didn't happen.
You mentioned leadership. I want to go back to that because I get a lot of, I've read a lot of books on leadership. I mean, sometimes I think there's no right or wrong answer. Sometimes it's perspective. What is your perspective on leadership? What is leadership to you?
Take care of your people. Make sure it's not about you.
Yeah.
You are just keeping a seat warm as all leadership is, in my opinion. Leadership is figuring out what your team needs to accomplish their mission, their tasks, and make sure you're getting them everything they need or reducing the barriers for them to accomplish their mission. That's leadership, in my opinion.
No, I love it. I mean, it's succinct. I've had people that have written theses on leadership. And I remember saying to somebody the other day, I said, listen, dude, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think leadership happens when you put the uniform on. It happens way before then, my friend, And they were like, well, what do you know? I went, well, I happen to know a lot. Dumbass.
I used to tell when the guys would come to me and like, hey, I'm preparing to test and and I would say being a leader is about putting out today's fire. Because you're going to have all the plans in the world of what you want to do tomorrow. When you get to work today, you got to deal with the fires that happen today. That's what leadership is. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's getting out of your people's way. Mm-hmm. It's not about you. It's about them. Mm-hmm. Take care of them. Yeah. Make sure they have what they need. And just be the safety net. Yeah. Sit back and go, what do you guys need? Yeah. And if they have everything they need, you know where to find me. Call me if you need me. And stay out of their way.
I like that last bit. Stay out of their way. I completely agree because again at the coffee carts I ran great team of baristas. They were hot. They knew what day it was. Their only homework was Sundays. You need to look at that newspaper back to front, be able to have a conversation, with your customers. But it was an easy team to lead. It was. I mean, I don't know. It was. Somebody came to me and they were like, wow, how many leadership courses, which one did you go on? And I went, I don't know. I never went on one. I was just always told that you don't ask somebody to do something you've never done. Always remember that you started at that bottom too. And I used to say to my baristas, listen, this is how I do it. I'm not saying it's the best way. If you come up with something that's smarter than me, hey man, tell us. You know what I mean? And I think once you make people feel involved, then you also have an opportunity to like mold, but I always say to people, if you haven't taken out the trash bin, then I can't expect my barista to take out the trash bin. It's that simple, Well,
and the hard mirror to look into is if you're ass deep in what your people are doing, then that's an indicator of you. Mm-hmm. Either you haven't trained them well to where they can do it without you, or you have the inability to let go and let them be. You brought up a great point. Hey, this is how I would do it. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we have to get from A to B. Mm-hmm. Just because I might go this way, as long as we're getting A to B, figure it out.
It's the old diaper thing. Hey, as long as the ship don't fall out.
I mean, it really is simple sometimes. This is our mission.
Yeah.
If you want to accomplish it this way and you want to accomplish it this way, as long as the mission's getting completed.
Yeah.
And you're being safe about it. You're not.
That's it.
If you're cutting corners to where there's a safety issue, then we're going to talk.
See, now my husband, a couple of times in previous years, whatever we're doing together, and I'm like, hey man, and he's like, no, I'm the safety guy. We have to do it like this. And I'm like, gosh, I know he's right, but I never thought, to be honest, this is where I've learned from him. My whole life, it's been me trying to fudge my way through it and do whatever I'm doing. So I guess I've been my own safety guy, but sometimes I've just not been a very good safety guy. So I understand why you need that safety guy. I understand the concept of team, why you need more than one person. And I always tell entrepreneurs as well, sometimes we are so in it that we can't see it, so we got to take a step backwards and we've got to have a look at it. I used to say to my baristas, listen, before you pour one single cup of coffee, your job is to stand outside your location and you have a look at it. Whatever you see, they will see. And if I come down here and I see shit that I shouldn't see, that's not going to be a good day. So you got to step out of it to have a look at it. And the other thing that I found, like in business, you really can't be emotional. Mm-mm. I say this to spouses all the time. You can't make emotional, financial decisions. Listen to the sentence. Do you know what I mean? Emotional, financial decisions. Who does that? Yeah, and it surprises me how much there is. Sometimes people attach so much emotion to something, like their business. I get being passionate. I'm passionate about what I do as well. But this is a business. It has to function by itself. It has a job to do. I need to make sure it does that job and set it up for success. But I can't be emotionally attached to it. And I think people don't understand that concept. And people have said to me, that's kind of cold, Surinder. Do you think I'm cold, Paul?
It's not about being cold, though. And I'll use my side, the first responder, the veteran community side. A lot of people get into positions. It doesn't have to be a leadership position. They could be the senior on a team or something, but they get this sense of identity that this is existing because of me and I'm making this better. And what you have to realize is you are going to be gone tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Your goal is to make sure the person who takes your place can keep it operational. Mm-hmm. And ideally do it better than you.
Yes.
And so I don't think it's about being emotional. It's about understanding that nothing's forever.
No. And when I set up my locations, I had to make sure that each location could run independently with the right person. And I tell people, my job, I felt that my job as a manager, leader, owner, whatever word you want to use, my job is to get the best out of you that I possibly can get. Also understanding you are not going to do it like me, even if I think that mine is the best. You're not going to do it like me, but I got to get the best out of you that I can possibly get. What is this person's currency for me to motivate them to, how do I click with this person? Otherwise, what I've done, and this is what most companies I've realized, especially stateside, and again, I've been here for nearly 30 years, so I don't know about back home. Corporate companies spend so much money and so much time headhunting, looking for a person, looking for somebody to fit that bill. And then what do? They find that person, they bring them in, and your training is it's like baptism by fire, and then they expect you to perform miracles. When you've spent all of that money trying to get somebody in through the door, why are you not giving them valuable time and investing in them to train them? Train them so you can leave them alone to do their job, or they can train somebody else. Otherwise, what are we doing? And that's why turnover sometimes is so high, and employees become disgruntled because they thought that this was what I was going to do, and then my training was like this. And then the other thing that I've noticed is, see that person that is the first person that a customer sees as you walk into an office is most likely the person that's paid the least, the receptionist or the fry guy or whoever it is, probably paid the least, but has the most impact on your business, on your reputation. Because that is the first person they're going to see, and if they look like shit and they can't do their job and all the rest of it, they're going to be like, what kind of operation are you running? That's why I always said to my baristas, I went, hey man, look good. Put on clothes. Make sure your top reaches the top of your jeans. We got females as well. Do you know what I'm saying? My rule was, hey, listen, I want you to bend over in your house before you come to work. And if you can reach round and feel your ass crack, you maybe need to put another pair of jeans on. Do you know what I mean? Because somebody will complain, and it won't be any of the guys. But yeah, it's like I invested in that team. I had a jacked up way of doing things. You know what I really did? I'd call them all down for an interview. Intentionally, I'd call 20, 30 girls down for an interview. I'd hide in the Navy Exchange and I'd watch who turned around, who looked at who engaged, Then I'd send a couple of the guys that I knew out just to give me, and people are going to cancel me for this, but hey, it's the way shit runs, man. Which girl do you think's hot?
Who do you want to buy coffee from?
Yeah, who would you buy coffee from? Do you know what I mean? I went through all of this just to see, okay, who's going to serve not me well, but my customer base well, because my customer base is now used to sassy, giving a little shit, taking a little shit. So that's what I gotta have, So it was a whole process. And sometimes I'd get guys coming into my office and just randomly, and I'd be like, oh, listen, lucky for you, my darling, this is the Captain Farquhar. Hey, Captain, would you like to ask a question? So the pretend captain would ask a question. Just to see how do you respond, because I've got to make sure if I'm putting all this time and effort into finding people and I'm looking for a particular person, you damn skippy, I want to get it right, because I got no more time to waste and I certainly ain't got no money to waste. And that's really very unconventional methods. And the guys used to say to me, Surinder, we know what your marketing techniques are. I went, I should hope so, dude.
It works for a big old chain restaurant that sells chicken wings.
There you go. And those ladies are very happy. And my girls, if any of my baristas are listening today, I know fine well you guys made bank. And to any of my ex-customers, thank you for making them and for giving an old lady her jollies.
I guarantee you more than one sailor paid $20 for a cup of coffee. And your price may have only been $3.85 for the cup of coffee.
I used to have a guy that used to come down every morning when I worked, and it's only because he walked by me one day and I went, hey, you, stop, turn around, let me check you out. And when he turned around, I went, hey, man, your collar's all caca. I said, you're going into work looking like you fucking rolled out of bed, man. I said, you got some bling going on, so you must be in charge, you know. I said, let me straighten your collar. And that guy came down every day, put $5 in that tip jar, never had a cup of coffee, and every day I'd look at him and just go, looking good. And that was it, yeah.
There's something about those transitory businesses. I think that's why a lot of people get drawn into the bars, like owning a bar. And I can guarantee you from the law enforcement side of the house, where we're so used to talking to people for our whole career, sliding it. I tell my kids all the time, because my one daughter likes baking. I go, let's open a restaurant. Yeah. I'll run the bar. Because I can sit there and shoot the shit all day long and pour drinks.
Yes.
But there's something transitory about it. You come in, you get your drink, we shoot the shit a little bit, and you're gone.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe you come back tomorrow, maybe you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that for me, everybody on base came from a different place, had a different background, everybody had a different stories. If I could have recorded my conversations from those days and played them today, I mean, they were hilarious. But by today's standards, somebody would be offended.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean? And that was the beauty of being there, because it was like role reversal for me. You know, and I could say things like, oh, turn around. Let me check you out. You're looking good. You know? It was great. And people used to be like, guys used to be like, in fact, guys would come up and I'd go, hey, handsome, what are you looking for? And they'd be like, me? And I'd be like, all right, let's try this again. Hey, you ugly fuck, what do you want? Does that sound better? You know, don't you want to be called handsome? You know? And I mean, that's what it was. We just made people feel good, and it was great. It was great. The
thing that sucks is there's so much nostalgia being put on Gen X now. You know, as our generation is the last one where we just spoke our mind. You know, we said shit.
Yeah.
And some of it was inappropriate.
Yeah.
But we just said it and we moved on.
Yeah.
And now they're almost looking at it like, wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
No.
It's just how we were, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. I take that back. There are some people who don't know how to know when to say when. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it was just busting each other's chops.
Yeah. And, you know, I think about all the time I saved by just getting to the point, you know, otherwise it'd be like, you know, when your daughter tells you a story when she's 14, 15, and it's, you know, 45 minutes long, and you know, it was like, hey man, let's just get to the point. I mean, my husband, he said to me before, hey Surinder, 10 words or less. And I'm like, okay, then, you know, but I get it.
Are you an AI person? Are you using ChatGPT a lot?
No, and I keep forgetting to use it. I mean,
the only reason I say that is I have gotten to the point now, because I'm trying to use it more and more frequently. I put in my prompt, don't give me an explanation. Don't give me the fluff, because ChatGPT loves to give you this, like, for instance, what time is it? Well, you know, it's if you're in this part of the globe, I just want to just give me the what my dad used to say. I want to know what time it is. Don't tell me how the watch is made. Mm-hmm. ChatGPT loves to do that, where it gives you this fluffy answer. It's like, just stop already. Just answer my question.
It's scary. And I've used it a couple of times, and when I have read it, I know that if I put that out, people are going to read it and they're going to go, okay, that's not Surinder.
Yeah.
Surinder does not talk like that.
Well, and the frustrating thing is you could ask it a question 5 different times. You're going to get 5 different answers. Yes. That's the frustrating part of why I really don't use it as much as I probably should, because it's the inconsistency of it.
What do you use it for? Like, mostly?
I like to use it to help develop topics that I'm going to, because I also do solo episodes. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes when I'm kind of stuck on how do I want to get this topic to go, I'll use it just to, like, almost kind of like to brainstorm. Okay. Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that aspect. But that's about the writing aspect. I don't like it. I cannot get it to write in any way that I feel like is really me.
Yes, I can't do that either. Somebody had actually, I just went to an event and a guy was talking about AI, and he said, you need to use AI like it's an employee of yours and talk to it and say, hey, I need you to whatever, because I'm so ignorant about it that, I thought it was just for writing, like, hey, I need to write a little piece about this, and then it would churn something out. But this guy's telling me you can use it for a multitude of things. And Paul, at my age, I just don't know if I really have the time to figure AI out.
I would say just use it, and like I said, if I could boil it down, just use it as a brainstorming partner. You're just looking for the aspects that you're missing. Okay. Hey, I want to do X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. What do I got to remember to do? Or or hey, I've done all of this. What am I missing? What am I not looking at? And sometimes it'll just point out something like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. So that's how I use it, is just to try to see the blind spots that I'm missing.
Okay, I mean, because I wrote a paper the other day, it took me 3 hours. Somebody read the paper, they looked at me and they went, hey, why didn't you AI it? And I thought, shit, I forgot about AI.
If you're going to use it for writing product, all I would say is have it create it, but then you're still going to need to sit there and rework it, because it hasn't gotten to a point, in my opinion, where it doesn't sound natural sometimes. Yes.
And I don't like these emojis everywhere.
Yeah.
Those really aggravate me. And I had said to my social media gal, take the emojis out, because once the emojis are in there, I think people automatically know it's AI'd. And I don't like that. I don't know why I don't like it, because everybody else seems to be okay with it. But I just think, no, I want it to come from me. I don't want it to come from AI.
Yeah, I would just say have it help you develop ideas, and then you take the idea and make it yours, or refine it into yours would be the easiest way I could explain it.
I think that's what I'm going to do. I need to do, again, at my age, the thought of technology. I mean, we spoke earlier about Riverside and editing and stuff like that. I know that some probably 12-year-old is going to look at my laptop and go, oh, just move it to the left. And I'm going to be like, no, I didn't know. It just moves so fast, though, that by the time I feel I've caught up with something, it's already moved on. And it's the technology is the one thing where I'm just like, I hate it.
It's not going away. And to circle back to the transition aspect, if you are transitioning and looking to go into another field, another job, I would say definitely learn it. Yeah. And you can also use it for that. You can say, hey, here are my experiences, here are my skills, here's the job that I'm interested in. What am I lacking? Mm-hmm. Or vice versa. Hey, here's all my skills. What jobs are good for me? Stuff like that can really be useful.
I'm going to look into that. But something, just as you mentioned the transition, I have a great tip for spouses. This is what I did with my husband. It wasn't just...
Save it.
Okay.
We'll use that to close out, because I want to get into, you're not somebody who likes to talk. What made you want to do a podcast?
You know what really made me want to do this podcast was I really want...
Not mine. Your podcast.
Mine.
And advertise it, because you haven't said the name yet.
The Goode Show. I didn't call it Milspouse anything. My ego said, call it The Goode Show. So it is The Goode Show. And what made me do it was, I remember as I opened my business, there was some, the trials and tribulations. And to be honest with you, Paul, I wanted somebody to turn around to me at some point and go, damn, girl, you did good. I just wanted that. I needed that. I'm going to be honest with you. Call me whatever, but I needed to know that the road I was on was being acknowledged, that I was on the right road, and I needed somebody I needed that acknowledgement, and I think that goes a long way. And my husband, don't get me wrong, I mean, support me till the cows come home, but it's that old thing about, all right, husband, you're meant to, kind of thing. So it was important to me that these spouses and veterans that are out there building businesses completely different than mine, I want to acknowledge them because they're putting in some sweat equity. They're working hard. They didn't separate and go down a fucked up road, and 9 times out of 10 these spouse or veteran businesses with service members it's almost inherent that when you serve you continue to serve. So a lot of these businesses that I talk to give back, and I think that it's important for the civilian world.
Each of us is on the grind. It's that early alarm, the extra rep, the drive that doesn't quit. Grind, spelled GRND, is the mindset that pushes you to go further when most people stop. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is built on one simple mission: give 100% and then some more. Every piece of clothing is functional, durable, and made for people who outwork the rest. On the field, in the gym, or wherever you're building your next lane. This isn't just clothing. It's commitment woven into fabric, rooted in American grit and culture. Because when you wear Grind, you're not just wearing a logo. You're representing effort, discipline, and purpose. Check out thegrindcollective.com, the GRNDcollective.com, and use the promo code TRANSITION15 for 15% off your order. You're already on the grind. Now wear it.
To understand, because we don't have the label on our forehead, retired spouse or retired service member, that job hasn't defined us. We are capable of more. And there's a lot of stereotypes out there about what military spouses are meant to be, And I'm like, dude, no, we're not that. So I just wanted to highlight, acknowledge people. And the thing is, these are people that deserve it. I don't know where they'll get acknowledgement from, but I just wanted them to be able to relay their stories. So somebody's out there, some military spouse, some veteran out there thinking, oh, maybe I can't do it. You can. There is no such word as can't. And the only time you fail is when you stop. That is the only time you fail. The beautiful thing about, I think, what we do, and I say this to spouses, entrepreneurship, you can pivot any way you want to, as many times as you want to, and there is nobody telling you that pivot is wrong. Nobody. There's such a freedom. There's a freedom about it. And I think every human being wants to feel, there is a need to feel that purpose again. That you're doing something, you're providing a good service. That's the other part of it, Paul. Again, I know what it was like. I had no marketing dollars. Small businesses don't have marketing dollars. So fortunately for me with the coffee carts, the reason why I picked the base as well was because, again, economically, traffic, all those logistics, But outside of the base, me promoting my podcast, because I'm, older than dirt, the whole social media thing is like a pain in my butt. I do need everybody to follow. That would be great. At The Goode Show. It's hard for spouses and veterans to get the word out about what they're doing. And I just want to help them get the word out. It's just a small piece of the pie. I'm nothing big here, but I've got a real loyal Milspouse audience that gets it. And veterans that, still want to perform, after they've, left the military. So that's why I do it. And I like talking to people. And I'm a talker. And I can't work for anybody, Paul. I'd be fired. I'd be like, dude, you're not doing this right. In fact, I did take it on a job because I thought I'm going to take this job on and it's going to support my podcast. And on Monday morning, like I'd been there for about a week, and on a Monday morning, I woke up at 2:00 in the morning. My stomach hurt. My chest hurt. I did not feel good. And I'm sitting in bed and I'm thinking, what's wrong with you? And then I realized, it's the job. It's not good for me. I can't work for anybody else. It has to be my way. It's going to be hard. And I said to the associate producer, Kim Brinkman, today, I said, hey, listen, girlfriend, no pain, no gain. I love the fact that sometimes this shit is hard. I love that pressure. Like, okay, I've got to get this done, Because see, when that day comes that we can take a bit of a breath, it's going to be so much sweeter. It's going to be so much worth it. It's so much better. That's why I do it. Other than that, what am I going to do, Paul? What am I going to do?
Sit at home with your retired husband.
Oh, no, that ain't going to work. Listen, what I did with my retired husband before he retired was I realized a couple of things about my guy. One of the things I realized about him is he's a checkbook, the check little box thing. If his box is not checked, it fucking kills him, aggravates him, irritates him. So in my kitchen, what I did was on the razor board, because, women, if you ask one time, they'll get to it. If you ask twice, we're nagging automatically. So what I did was on this little board, there was his side and my side. And I just put the little box, whatever it was that I needed, didn't even ask him. Came to my side, put my list down, checked my list off. He comes home, he's like, I got no checks in the checkbox. That's it. I'm getting that shit done. There you go. No conversation needed to be had. There was no argument.
Peer pressure.
He just, well, there you go. Whatever pressure you want to call it. He just went and did it. No conversation at all. Good, you can never say I've nagged. No, so, I mean, it's just figuring it all out, and it's life, and it's all good. It's all good. There's some good shit to being a military spouse. There's, and we forget that. And we shouldn't. Because again, what other profession allows spouses or those at home to be able to live a life where they have independence? They also have a partner. There's not many professions that have that. None that I can think of, So we want to look at that picture and we want to work that to our benefit. That's what we want to do. So when I talk to spouses and we talk about challenges, I go, hey, what's the solution? Because we can't have a bitch fest, because that's easy. What is the solution? What would you do? And how would you do it? Because there's solutions out there. We just gotta figure them out.
When you think about it from a transition perspective, the analogy that I've heard is exactly that. When you're thinking about what you want to do next, figure out the problem and then be the solution.
Yes.
And you've created a career for yourself.
Yes. Somebody walked into a boardroom the other day and they turned around and they said, okay, this is the event we're going to be doing and it's going to be this. And then they said, okay, and by the way, we won't be here for the event. We are going to be elsewhere. Will you execute the event? And I looked at them and I went, first of all, don't ever come into a boardroom and say, this is what we're going to do without a backup. Like, hey, I want to hear, hey, here's the logistics. Number two, I'm not executing your vision. I do not operate in that manner. If you've decided this is what we're going to do, you better start doing it. I got nothing else for you. I was not flavor of the month, but that's all right, But yeah, you've got to know, you've got to do your homework. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do your homework for you. And if you're not ready to do your homework, you're just not ready. You'll get there, or maybe you won't. But everything is a choice. Just make some good choices. That's what my dad used to say. He's like, hey, man, just make a good choice. If you do the right thing, you just can't go wrong. Real simple. Why do we overcomplicate life? I'm like, I don't know, Dad, because there's a lot of choices that we have today, and that's half the problem. It's half the problem. We've got too many choices. Just make a good one. Make one that you can live by, that you can put your head on the pillow at night and feel proud that you made that decision and it benefited other people, including your family, your brothers, your sisters. There's not a lot of this. Sometimes I find in the world today that we got to have more of that. See all this me. It's nobody started off at the top. Everybody started off down here. You know, it's that old saying, remember where you came from. I remember where I came. I remember living in that car. And I remember having to go to a train station every day and pay 50 pence, which is about $1, to go access the shower room so I could take a shower. And then I went to work pretending I lived in a mansion. Until somebody caught me one day. I was parked around the back of this restaurant. And they saw me sleeping in the car, and they came and chapped the window, and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I was sleeping until I was awoken. And they're like, you sleep in your car? And I went, yeah, it's all right. You know, but yeah, you got to go through that shit. That's why everything else above that, for me, and I got no degree. I admitted that 2 years ago to my kids. My kids were like, what? I was like, I know, didn't get my degree. I didn't want to. It wasn't for me. You know, I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea. And as a parent, my job is to give you a good start in life. And if not everybody's an academic, so if that's not what you are, then let's look at a trade. Let's look at some other options. You know, back in the day when I was growing up, trades were frowned upon. Oh, you're going to be a plumber? You know, but now, I mean, look at it now. You can't get a good spark to save your life. You know, these trades are coming back. So again, from an academic perspective, I always say to people, I don't know, you know, nobody's ever asked me for a piece of paper. Nobody's ever said to me, okay, Surinder Goode, where is your degree? Because then I'd have to say it's in the shitter.
They make a bigger, not a bigger deal. They make a big deal about it today, about the fact that you could go get a degree and not have a job after getting a degree. I don't think that's changed in 50 years. Because if you go back to 1960 and get a degree in 16th century English literature, guess what? There's few job options out there.
Yeah.
So it's more about looking at what you got a degree in and what you studied and what's the marketability of that.
That's it.
Because I can guarantee there's no way you're going to become an attorney without getting a degree.
No.
So...
And me, coming from where I come from, I mean, I either should have been married off at the age of 10 with 5 million children, or I should have been an attorney or a doctor. And of course, much to my parents' chagrin, I was neither. But hey, you know, my mum and dad realised towards the end that, hey, she was just, you know, fell down, got hit on the head, whatever, but she's okay, you know. And yeah, I don't think that piece of paper means anything. I got a brother who's got a PhD. Teaches at Cambridge and at Oxford, you know. Financially, I'm not too sure that's really benefited him. It's more, see him more stressed. You know, there's a lot of pressure that goes with having a PhD. That's why I'm like, no, we're good. We don't need the PhD. Let's just have fun, man. Go out there, build something good and have fun while you're at it. You know, and for me, when I looked at the coffee carts and I walked away from corporate America, I thought, what do I like? And I thought, you know what I like? I like men. They're simple. No offense. But obviously growing up with so many of them, it's like, men, they're simple. I know where I stand. There's no drama. Where are all these men? What can I build where I'm surrounded by men, but is legit? And that's when I was like, oh, coffee. Let's do it. Navy needs coffee, and it's and that's how my love for the military, outside of my husband, obviously,
goes back to bars and coffee.
Yeah.
Either catch them at the start of the day or catch them at the evening.
Yeah, it's like the water cooler. It's such a great place. That's why when your kid says to you about opening up those pop-up coffee things, best conversations. It's like I think people feel like they're at their hairdresser apart from you. That
hurt. You don't think I go to a hairdresser?
Well, if you do, it's a bad one.
Maybe this is the style that I ask for.
Well, God bless you. But, you know, it's like you become the counsellor. You know, they start telling you all their stuff. And it's just, everybody's human. You know, everybody's got flaws. Everybody fucks shit up. Everybody says the wrong stuff. You know, what we need to have a little bit more of sometimes, I think, is just grace. A little bit of grace goes a long way, you know. And again, I feel that way because I come from something that was just so oppressive, you know. Yeah. Just, I remember my mum and dad saying to me once, they went, Surinder, that's it. We found a boy for you. We're bringing him from India. And I remember standing there thinking to myself,
don't deliver my car.
I remember thinking, by the time that kid gets here, learns how to say hello in English, I'll be down a bar getting fucked up, and that ain't going to be too cool. So I think the best thing to do is not bring any shame on the family. I'll just hopscotch and pack my shit and go live in my car instead. I was like, nah, not for me. So, coming from that kind of, and again, hey, listen, I'm going to say this because there's going to be some Indian listening somewhere that's going to be really upset. Don't be upset. That's it. My parents didn't know what my parents didn't know. They felt that they were doing the best that they possibly could. And I will say this, some of those situations where the Western world would have looked at those situations and thought, oh my God, that's this, that and the other. Character building taught me a lot. I don't know a lot of people that don't come from something that's been difficult. Teaches you good stuff. And at my age, I think, I look back on it and I think, wasn't too bad. I'll live to tell the tale. How bad could it have been? Learned a lot from it. It's all good.
We as parents can really screw something up when it comes to raising our kids. Man, we put ourselves in our kids so much, and it's just like, if I could give anybody any advice at all, just let your kid grow up and be their mom, be themselves.
Yeah.
Don't make them your mini-me.
No. I do have a mini-me, though, I will say that.
If they naturally gravitate to you, fine.
Yeah, I do.
But, your job shouldn't be, you should go to college. Your job should be, hey, where do you want to end up in life, and how can I help you get there?
Yeah. Our rules for our kids are real simple. I don't really care what you do for a profession as long as it's above board. Don't beat your wife. Do not beat your children. Live within your means.
Good ass whooping, that was good for a kid.
Be a good citizen. Be a good citizen. And have some humility. I mean, the rules of life are pretty simple. We just overcomplicate them ourselves. And another thing I tell my children is, as you're growing up, it's a natural tendency. I want a big house. I want a big car. I don't want a car. I want 6 cars and a Rolls Royce. And then you get to this age and you're like, okay, I don't want to be cleaning a big house, and I ain't got time for 5, 6 cars. You just want, it tends to go in reverse.
The older I get, the more I want to go with Uber all the time. I don't even want to drive.
I know.
Just pick me up and take me there.
But I will say, a lot of young kids today, I have heard from parents,
don't want to drive.
Don't want to drive. What's that?
I don't. You know what it is because the parents didn't allow them to grow up and be independent before they were of driving age. So I think back to like when I was a kid. We spent our life riding our bikes all over the place.
Yep.
And so it was just an extension of when you were old enough to drive, you went and got a license so you could get a car so you could get further. Mm-hmm. Kids today, mom and dad take them everywhere. I think back like I have baseball practice, or I got a baseball game. Ride your bike, or call Mr. Johnson, see if you could get a ride with him, Yeah. And now it's, the parents are so far up their kids' ass in everything they do. There's no sense of independence at all.
I mean, I look at my 16-year-old and I'm so grateful that she's got a car, she's driving, she didn't wait. There was a teenager that I spoke to recently who said to me, the reason I'm not driving is because I don't want to pay the insurance. The gas is ridiculous. Payment on a car is ridiculous. I simply cannot afford to drive. And I thought, I never thought of that, to be honest with you, Paul. I didn't think... I don't know. I guess I just didn't.
And when we were younger, gas was cheaper.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, to what you could make minimum wage working at McDonald's or something. Gas and insurance in your car. Nobody bought a new car. That's why everybody's. If you're over 40, your first car wasn't brand new. A lot of these kids that do drive today, their parents go out and get them a brand new car or something. But you had a piece of garbage car that you were lucky if it ran. And insurance was minimal.
Yeah.
But my answer to them would be is like, okay, fine, if you don't want to drive, but who are you inconveniencing to get you to where you need to be?
Yeah. I mean, I looked at that kid and I thought to myself, okay, you just wait until there is an emergency and you need to get somewhere real fast. That's the day that you're going to be like, God damn it, I need to drive. Because you need to drive. I get the insurance thing in Cali. I just had a little bit of a bump a couple of months ago. I mean, we're talking a bump. And it's sad, but, the first thing that Dad said to me, God bless his cotton socks, was he looked at me and he went, hey, he said, I got to ask you this. He said, you do have insurance. And I looked at him and I went, yes, because it's the law. I said, now I'm going to assume you asked me that question because I'm somewhat suntanned. And he couldn't deny it. And I wasn't offended by it. It's the law to have insurance. You got to have insurance. End of story. It's no biggie. And thankfully, I also give him kudos for this. His daughter was driving a BMW. And I drive that tank that's held up by duct tape. That's a typical sign that I'm married to a team guy, because he's just got, that black tape trying to hold shit together.
But it's paid for.
It's paid for. Haven't had a payment on it for I don't know how long, But she was driving a Beamer, and thank gosh the father was normal. He said to me, look, he said, there's a little bump. I'm going to take it to my buddy's place. He's a panel beater, he'll fix it. I was like, inside I'm thinking, thank God, because you could have wheeled that sucker to a BMW and, and then I would have had to tell Goode. And while I'm thinking this thought, have a guess who happened to drive around the corner? Goode. And I'm like, ah. But yeah, I mean, shouldn't have been driving for BMW. Sorry, Dad. I mean, that's kind of fancy car, But yeah, it's kids don't want to drive because of insurance, overhead, the cost of gas, the whole 9 yards. But
here's a sexist comment. Until young girls start looking at young boys going, what? You don't drive? I'm not going to go out with you.
Yeah.
Young boys aren't going to want to go get a license. There was something about when I was younger, man, I want to be able to take little Mary to the movies or something and not have to ask mom or dad.
Yeah. My daughter said to her friend yesterday, my kid's a big workout, she does track, whatever, and got real powerful, strong legs. And she turned around to her buddy and went, hey, Will, if you ever get into a jacuzzi with me, I don't want my legs to be bigger than yours, dude. You need to go work out. I went, hey, girl, I bet that kid's ego's just shot now. She was like, but Mom, he doesn't work out his legs. He only works out his upper body. She said because he wants to save his legs for soccer or something. I went, well, doesn't he walk on the legs every day? I mean, come on now. She went, yeah, I told him, I said, real men work out, have good legs, and they have an ass. I was like, oh my God, too much like me. Shut up. Created a monster.
So I cut you off earlier. I'm going to give you the ability to wrap this up with your pieces of advice that you wanted to give to military spouses.
I think I may already have said that out the back, but something, I will say this. My advice to military spouses is this. First of all, we all know that the only consistent thing with the military is change. It is not your spouse's fault. I just need to reiterate that several times because I can't tell you how many spouses I've met over the years that for some reason, and maybe it's the way the message is delivered, your guy doesn't, to the best of my knowledge, make the decisions as to where he goes and when he goes. When he signed on the dotted line, and you said, I do, you signed on that dotted line too. And I don't think spouses understand that. And the other thing I do want spouses to understand is this. Listen, there's a lot of shit out there that the military does provide for military spouses. There's a lot of resources, Paul. And sometimes I hear spouses kind of like, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that. We got it. We do. Use those resources. And remember, and this is the most important thing, I don't think anybody got married because of the TRICARE. So I want you to go back and just remember that day where you turned around and said, I do. There was some meaning behind that. There was a reason you stood there. And just because shit goes a little wonky, you want out? Nah, it doesn't work like that. So just go back there, remember why you married them, remember why you're both together, and together you're a team. Because if you're not together, the team does not work. It doesn't work. So I think that's my advice. Just, hey, be patient. We have to be careful with what we say sometimes. I mean, hey, women, we're the fucking worst. I mean, I have opened my mouth and said some shit that I can never take back. And I wish I could. I really do wish I could. So we just want to be careful with our approach, and we don't know what our service members been through, really. We will never know. And it's not his fault or her fault that they went through what they went through. We're here to support, and that's what I chose to do. He didn't spring it on me after we got married that, hey, I'm an ASL. In fact, I do remember somebody was like, oh, into him in a big way, and like really, really big way. And he said to me, no, this is crazy because, I've made it known to people that this, and I'm like, look, dude, I don't know. You seem to think a lot of yourself, don't you? That this chick's kind of like after you. You think a lot of yourself. Well, the chick was after him. I was like, oh my gosh. But be patient, be kind to yourself as well. Just a little bit of grace. That's it. A little bit of grace, a little bit of conversation goes a long way. That's it. I mean, there's no secret.
Well, I appreciate your time. It's been a great conversation. Thanks for coming up and being on the show.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. Don't forget to follow at The Goode Show. See, now's my moment. At The Goode Show! Paul, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. All the best going forward.
Likewise.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.